Look, also, I want you to join the conversation in all the usual ways. Email me gbviews@gbnews.com. You can get in touch on the website gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me. But look, have you been following all these twists and turns over the weekend? The big question about whether or not Rachel Reeves misled us, the public. Long story short, I'll give you the shortened version. The allegation is that when she was kind of doing press conferences, interrupting your breakfast and all the rest of it, she was trying to make out that the situation in the public finances was absolutely dire, whereas actually she'd already been told by the OBR previously that it wasn't as dire as expected at all, and in fact things were looking pretty good. Huge calls now for Rachel Reeves to resign. The Treasury Secretary James Murray, he was speaking out in her defence today. Let's take a listen.
Took the step of delivering a speech before the budget precisely so that she could be upfront about the circumstances she was facing and the decisions that she would need to take. The Chancellor has been honest and consistent with the public in everything she has said.
Well, Mel Stride, he was having absolutely none of that. Let's take a listen.
We expect those in positions of power to act with transparency, openness and integrity. But it is increasingly clear that in recent weeks the conduct of people in government fell short of those standards. This is not just my view. Indeed, a member of the Cabinet is quoted in the press today saying, and I quote, "The handling of this budget has been a disaster from start to finish."
Well, someone who did have accountability was the head of the OBR. He resigned today. Damning report into what created that leak, by the way. You'll never guess this if you know anything basic about technology or anything like that. The OBR was running their website on WordPress. If you're not very technical, WordPress is the kind of thing that you'd offer to your 12-year-old kid who wants to start blogging about their day at school. Mind-blowing. Anyway, nice to see a bit of accountability. Should she go? Should she stay or what?
Of course, she should resign. Absolutely. The wrong person today resigned, the head of the OBR. Rachel Reeves should have gone. She basically lied to the country. She made everybody think that there was a certain thing going on, but we now know, looking at the correspondence from the OBR and other places, that she knew she had a surplus of around $4 billion. And what she did is she basically misled the country in order to justify those huge welfare spending splurges. She did it in a very underhand way, actually, and that's what I think gets a lot of people going. You look at the YouGov polling today, only 19% of Brits say that Rachel Reeves is trustworthy. I actually think that's a bit high. I actually think it should be a lot lower, because what she did really, Michelle, was quite outrageous. She will now forever be seen not only as the woman who lied about her CV, who lied about tax rises last year, but who now also lied about the state of the country's finances this year. I mean, she is on her way out. The question is when.
Is she?
I don't know if she's on her way out. I think it's right that the chair of the OBR resigns. I mean, why would the Chancellor ever want the OBR forecast to be leaked 30 minutes before the budget? That's nothing that she would ever want to happen. So I don't think it is her fault. As you said, it was quite a small technical error of them just uploading it slightly earlier and having a URL that was easily replicable. Like, that's a human mistake, and I think it is good that in an age of mistrust in politics over the last 10 years, you know, someone's finally taken accountability and gone, yeah, do you know what, that was his fault and his call.
Not long ago, I introduced Claude Note, a powerful AI-enabled meeting assistant, and today we're excited to have in hand Claude's latest upgraded version. Is this a platinum credit card? Nope. It's Claude Note Pro, your updated AI-powered meeting assistant. With 4 built-in microphones, Claude Note captures everything and records crystal clear audio up to 5 meters away. But it's more than a recorder. Take photos, jot ideas, mark highlights, and during key discussions, if I press the button just right here, it instantly saves 30 seconds of key audio as a highlight. I never miss important details. And you've got 50 hours non-stop recording on Note Pro, or 60 hours on standby. There's a smart display showing battery life, recording status and file transfers, so you always know what's going on. Then Claude turns it into structured notes, summaries, insights, to-dos, even analysis of power dynamics in the room. And with Ask Claude, your contextual AI assistant, you can draft emails, extract data, brainstorm, or find anything across past meetings. And you're safe knowing that your data is yours and completely private. Click the link in the video description to pre-order your Plord Note Pro. And if you'd like to experience Plord Intelligence even earlier, I've got a special offer for you. Use the code GB20 when ordering Plord Note and get 20% off.
Should Rachel Reeves resign? I don't think so. I think there were some great things in the budget, if not least the abolition of the two-child benefit cap. That's a reform policy.
No.
I think that'll lift thousands of children out of poverty.
That's not a reform policy, by the way. Do you know the difference between the Labour policy and the reform policy?
What?
The Labour policy are taking off the cap for everybody, which will mainly benefit disproportionately families of Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Nigerian heritage. Reform's policy is very clear. They're restricted to British families and to people who are working, because what we've seen this week is absolutely outrageous. Do you know if you're a British worker now, you need to earn £90,000, right? £90,000 just to keep up with a family with 5 children on welfare benefits. That's the social contract your party has created.
I don't think that's true.
That's true.
That's true at all.
Well, that's the Centre of Social Justice that came out in the Telegraph newspaper 2 days ago that showed, also on average, British families are now £18,000, British working families are £18,000 worse off than people who are on welfare benefits. What your party's doing to this country, or Labour, what they're doing to this country is they're creating perverse incentives where it makes more sense now to live on welfare, to live on dependency, than it does to go to work. And this is absolutely bonkers.
I don't think that's the Labour Party's fault. I mean, wages have been stagnating.
Of course it's the Labour Party's fault. You're choosing to expand welfare.
Right, just hold on, because he just made a claim and you said that that's not true. And I just want to bring some clarity. It is true what he's just said.
Thank you.
So if you're a family of 5, you need, if you want to be in work, £90,000 a year to match jobless households' combined benefit income. For a family of 3 in work, you would need to earn £71,000 before tax to match the equivalent jobless family, what they are getting in these benefits. So what he said is true. How do you?
Well, I assume a lot of those, the 3-person or 5-person family would also receive some form of benefit that those out of work would also do. So I don't think that's the true figure.
Andy,
we're getting sounding figures that none of us have read.
No, I've read them.
I mean,
it's a Centre for Social Justice.
I mean, the Centre for Social Justice, a right-wing think tank, to be clear. They are a centre-right think tank.
It doesn't.
Let's not act like they're the,
Andy, the numbers have been plastered all over the newspapers over the weekend. What this Labour government is doing, to be clear, is creating a system where people are now incentivised to live on welfare rather than go to work. We're going to be spending as a country £400 billion by the end of this decade on welfare. It's absolutely obscene. So the people watching this show, they're being forced to bankroll broken borders. They're being forced to bankroll 10 billion quid for welfare benefits for people who aren't even from this country. And now they're being forced to bankroll hundreds of thousands, millions of people who are living on welfare with no requirement to even look for work. Of the 8.5 million people on welfare, nearly half of them have no requirement to look for work. And then Labour people are like, where's the growth? Why is our economy stagnating? There's a pretty big reason why, because nobody has any incentive to go to work.
I think it's completely unfair to go, this has all gone wrong in the last 18 months. For the better part of a decade, we've had stagnated wages, bills going through the roof. It is completely unfair. It was the Tory government that did most of this damage. But of course, it's all Rachel Reeves' fault.
How many more people are on welfare a year after Labour coming to power than were on welfare?
I'm sure you're going to tell me.
Do you want to have a guess?
No.
It's 1 million people. Right. 1 million more people on welfare a year after Labour came to power, because that's what Labour do.
But on welfare, welfare is such a broad term. What do you mean by welfare? Is that in-work benefits, out-of-work benefits?
Accessing some form
Plenty
of
people
welfare
who
benefits.
work harder than both of us are on benefits. They're on in-work benefits. Plenty of them are.
I mean, clarity, I work exceptionally hard.
I'm sure you do. But lots of people are working extremely hard,
Andy,
and they have in-work benefits. The idea that anyone who's on benefits is lazy or whatever is just simply not true.
You know what? I'm 44 this month. For the first time in my life, when I was thinking about that, saying I work hard, for the first time in my life, I now feel like I'm living in a country where I'm not really sure why I'm working so hard, because this social contract that I'm paying for, that millions of workers out there are paying for, it doesn't make any sense. Why am I paying for people who aren't British to live on welfare? Why am I paying for millions of people to live on welfare?
Answer that question. Why are my viewers all grafting, going to work to pay for benefits for people that are not British?
Well, if they're a citizen of this country, or they've got a indefinite leave to remain, then as the law sees them, they've been here long enough to be part of our society, and they've paid in enough, or would in theory pay in enough to receive the benefits if they needed them. I mean, we can get into quite a deep debate about visa contingencies and whether ILR should be abolished, or are we giving out citizenship too liberally? I mean, that's a completely different discussion. But functionally, a lot of these people on paper are British. As the state views them, they are British. We can get into a debate about whether they've got dual nationalities or whatever, but on paper they are also British.
We're treating people in hospital corridors, we're treating people in car parks, while as a country, while as a country, we are spending more than £22 billion a year on foreign aid and benefits for people who are not British. Cicero, the Roman statesman, said the first duty of the state is to look after your own people. We have a government, and I'd say agree with you actually, we have had governments, both Tory and Labour, who actually no longer care about putting the British people first. That's why we're seeing all of this change in the polling, because for the first time, people can see that now. They can see that actually, if you're a hard-working British person, you are now a second-class citizen in this country. You are a second-class citizen in this country. And I've never seen a social contract like this in my life. Again, why am I here? Why don't I go to America? Why don't I go to Australia? Because I love this country. I want to see it thrive. But Labour are doing everything they can to clobber workers in this country.
I mean, as you say, successive governments, this isn't just an 18-month thing. This goes back years and years and years. Why is it then that Reform UK, the party that you are a member and advocate for, are accepting so many of the Tories that were the architects of this broken system, that were the architects of austerity, that caused it?
On in the programme, Tim, one of my viewers, has said, Michelle, loads of companies use WordPress for their operations. It's no excuse for the mistake. Yes, Tim, but the point is there's nothing wrong with WordPress, but you shouldn't be using it if you are the OBR and you publish such sensitive information. There's no excuse for that. John says, Michelle, I think we should have a national strike until Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer resign. Hey, John, I think you'd be on strike for quite some time there, my friend, I've got to say, because I don't actually think they'll be going anywhere anytime soon. Deborah says, Michelle, you are better off on benefits. They should start taxing benefits more. That would increase tax revenues and make things fairer even more. She says, ultimately, nobody should be better off on benefits. And I completely agree with you, Debbie, and this is the point, Deborah, sorry. This is the point. Many people feeling now that seesaw, the balance of fairness, has tipped in the wrong direction. If you're one of those people, or you have a different view, get in touch, join the conversation, all the usual ways.